I think there are a lot of different flavors of sobriety. And for me, because weed was never an issue and I don't foresee it ever being an issue, I don't think that like having a gummy once every 4 months is going to have any effect on my drinking.
I guess the question is, does being in a program like AA create a very perfectionist attitude that excludes a lot of people from being able to take part in a program that is very helpful in the way of giving me boundaries and sort of parameters of like, well, I'm not going to be able to call myself sober if I smoke pot. Does that exact attitude prevent people from being able to come to AA? Welcome back to Drunkish, my friend Tamara. How are you?
I'm good.
Um, I'm so happy that you're so willing to just like jump on and do an episode with me. I wanted a break from my typical episodes. As I told you, I was like every week it's somebody's story and they're all great
Hmm.
stories.
Hmm.
But sometimes I just want to talk about some shit that's been on my mind,
Hmm.
like some
I am
topics.
always here for that. I am always here for that. And I'm always happy to have a distraction from work or school.
I feel that your take on sobriety and your approach to it has always been very, I'm not sure how to even put this, like very grounded and very honest and very like, hey, whatever works. And
Hmm.
I think sometimes some people, myself included, can get very perfectionist. I want to explore this idea of perfectionism and having to do it one certain way. So sometimes I
Yeah.
think that people that do it the AA way, I'm just going to go ahead
Hmm.
and say what that is, get
Okay.
very like AA is like this, and this is what you have to do. And if you don't do it like that, then you're not really sober and you're also like going to drink again.
Right. And I think that that absolutely works for some people. It 100% does. Some people really like the structure of it. Um, and I think even like sometimes even respond to the dogma, um, and just sort of need that in order to stay sober, I guess. For me that wasn't the route that I took. Um, and I feel okay with that. I don't feel like I'm missing anything in my life by not going to AA, but I know it has saved lives. I know how important it is.
But this is the thing that I think people get caught up in is it's almost like we have to say that. We have to go I am not here to shit on AA in any way shape or form. I would you call it subscribe to it? I ascribe to it.
Hmm.
I do it. I go to meetings. I've been sober, next month it'll be 17 years.
Wow.
And that was the only way that I knew to get sober. That was,
Right.
when you're desperate, even though I had a lot of misgivings about doing a program and I'm a
Uh-huh.
person that's rebellious and doesn't want to do that,
Hmm.
I still was like, this is a way that I know works. It's worked for millions and millions of people. It will work for me. And it did work for me. But I also know people who are happily sober and didn't do it. And this is
Hmm.
not me saying like, hey, if you don't want to do it, find another way. But I think
Right.
everybody should try it. And if it
Yes.
doesn't work for you, there's other
Yes.
things to do.
Agreed. Well, I also think that 17 years ago, when you started this journey, your sobriety journey, um, there weren't a lot of options. People weren't talking about it. There was still a lot of shame involved with admitting that you couldn't like manage your alcohol. And now there's this whole movement of people that are very vocal about it and are also just sort of saying like I don't really have a problem with alcohol. I just choose not to drink. So there's this sort of spectrum, I think. And it's just it's just become much more in the public view and it's become much more mainstream to not drink.
Yes. Now, to get personal with you for a minute,
Hmm.
when you first quit drinking, you were taking gummies, right?
Yeah, not immediately. But I would say maybe a year in, I
You're
got,
like, fuck this.
yeah,
This shit's
kind
hard.
of. But also because for me, I never said I'm going to be totally sober. Like I'd never used the word sober. I said I don't drink. Um, and so, but then I got into a thing where I was every night I would take a gummy. And then I think we talked about this. I had a manic episode because I have bipolar disorder. And my psychiatrist was like, yeah, if you're taking gummies every night, it's probably going to lead to an episode, which I had no idea the two were linked. Um, so I stopped doing that. But every once in a while, I will take a gummy. It's the times are few and far between, but I will still do it. And it doesn't affect what I consider my quote unquote sobriety because I never said I'm never going to do anything. I just said I cannot manage alcohol. I think they're two different things.
I think that's such it's so interesting because there's this part of me, the old school AA is the only way part of my brain. You know, like you were just saying before, I don't know if I could have done it without it being very serious. You don't do anything. You stay
Right.
sober no matter what. I
Right.
gave up all my Xanax. You
Hmm.
know, I had been on a Ativan, Xanax, Klonopin journey,
Right.
before I got sober. And then I was like, oh my God, if I look at all the substances, not all of them, but I would do whatever's in front of me.
Hmm.
I would get high. I loved to get low. I would take,
Yeah.
if I could get a hold of, Vicodin, I would.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I had Xanax, I had a prescription for it. When
Hmm.
I quit drinking, I had to go, oh shit, I do all these other things too. Like,
Right. Right.
and then I had to titrate off of I had to go, okay, well, I guess I can't ever take Vicodin again because that
Right.
seems like that's a drug. I guess
Right.
what I'm trying to say is I needed the program of it all to
Hmm.
be
The
like,
structure.
you can't do any of that.
Right.
And
Right.
you need to get used to being completely sober and so that you can learn to live life without any of those things.
Hmm.
I needed that.
Yeah.
But then I get a little bit like even when I hear you say like, oh, I'll take a gummy once in a while, my brain just goes like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Maybe I shouldn't have said like, I'm never going to do anything again because like I want to take a gummy, but I guess it's just that I know myself and
Hmm.
I do think that if I had a gummy, I I've known myself for many years.
Yeah.
And I do think that I would find a way to go like, well, I took a gummy and that was like kind of nice and that was
Yeah.
fine. So like I would be the person that just goes, well, every night I'm going to take a gummy, and then I'd be like, when
Right.
is it going to be like 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. So
Yeah.
I can like have a
Yes.
gummy.
I think the difference is that when you quit drinking, like weed wasn't readily available. You couldn't just like run into a store and buy a bunch of gummies. Whereas when I quit drinking 3 years ago, it was already a thing. And I knew that I didn't really have a problem with that, if that makes sense. Um, Let me ask you this. So in AA, if you, you know, you have nearly 17 years. If you were to smoke weed, would that set your clock back to the beginning? How does
Oh,
it work?
100%. Although
Okay.
I had a guest, my friend was on, my friend Kim Evie, who just
Hmm.
came on to talk about the fact that
I loved that.
we
Hmm.
know each other. She is a person who was hiding that and then had to
Uh-huh.
come clean and set her time back. So,
Yeah.
but also here's the thing that I just think is such an interesting topic. I see on Facebook a lot in sober groups.
Hmm.
People will say, I smoke pot or I take gummies. Does that mean I'm not sober? And the
Hmm.
comments go crazy. Like people are very divided on it because a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, who cares? Like
Right.
you you don't drink. So like, yeah, you're still sober. You're sober from alcohol. But
Right.
like, and then other people are like, okay, but please don't talk about like I'm sober
Hmm.
if you're doing something else all the time. But then
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know what the line is. I don't know what the where the rule came from. Yes, according to AA, if you do any substances that alter you from
Hmm.
the neck up,
Right.
you're not sober. You're not
Yeah.
sober, AA sober. But then I don't know, like you said, but then does that mean that a lot of people are not going to be able to get sober because they're going to be like, well, that bar is set too high,
Right.
and so then I'm
Maybe.
excluded.
It's interesting because I think maybe there needs to be a different word because in my mind too, sober means you don't do anything. And I think I've referred to myself as sober in speaking with you in this forum only because it felt like the most accessible language. Um, but for me, again, I don't say I'm sober, I say I don't drink. So I think there are a lot of different flavors of sobriety. And for me, because weed was never an issue and I don't foresee it ever being an issue, I don't think that like having a gummy once every 4 months is going to have any effect on my drinking, if that makes sense.
And I don't think it will either. And I swear part of this was I just wanted to kind of discuss, like, I guess the question is, does being in a program like AA create a very perfectionist attitude that excludes a lot of people from being able to take part in a program that is very helpful? The things that really help me are, when I made an inventory of
Hmm.
patterns and behaviors that have caused me problems in my life, and I was able
Hmm.
to like honestly take a look at some of the things that I do and my what we call character defects, like
Right.
my tendency to come from ego or to be very sensitive or
Hmm.
to, I don't even want to say be a people pleaser because it's so overused and it makes it sound like I'm just too nice. But
Right,
sort of
right, right,
like
right.
what I do is I have high expectations, unrealistic expectations, because I feel like,
Hmm.
well, I would act this way. So if someone doesn't act that way, now I'm resentful, you know?
Hmm.
And that's a thing
Hmm.
that I've had to take a look at. So it's really helped me in that way. And I guess, like I said, in the way of giving me boundaries and sort of parameters of like, well, I'm not going to be able to call myself sober if I smoke pot. I can't come to my meetings and I can't like
Right.
be, but does that exact attitude prevent people from being able to come to AA?
Yeah, it probably does. But again, if you're a member of any group or any organization, there are rules. And so for this particular organization, the rule is you cannot take any mind altering substance. So if that doesn't work for some people, then they can join another group that those rules don't necessarily apply to. And there are plenty of other groups now. There didn't used to be, but there are now. There are so many online communities and probably in person communities that you can find camaraderie and community in that don't have such strict rules.
But let me ask you this. Why, like, I wonder where it's written in AA
Hmm.
that there's rules. You know what I mean? Like who's who's putting out those rules and who's enforcing those rules? Like
Well,
nobody.
isn't
We're
it in
a
that big
self.
book of yours?
I'm trying to
It's
think
a
of
big ass book.
right, but here's I'm going to play devil's advocate on myself. So yes,
Okay.
it is sort of a rule, but then when I'm in these like Facebook groups and people are talking about,
Hmm.
oh, I smoked pot. Does that mean do I have to am I not sober? And then other people will be like, "No, you're sober. Sober just means you don't drink, so you don't drink."
Right.
And then there'll be people they'll go like, "Well, I go to like AA, but like do I have to say that I smoke pot?" And a lot of people will be like, "No, who cares? Like it's up to you."
Right. Yeah,
So
I'm go ahead.
No, I guess what I'm saying though is then if we just go like, well, okay, but then other people will argue, well, they'll say, well, some people will say, well, you're not supposed to do anything mind altering. So if you're
Right.
getting high, you're altering your mind, you're
Right.
escaping, you're still escaping, you're not learning how to live life on life's terms, right? But
Right.
then other people will be like, well, isn't like eating sugar or drinking coffee
Or
or
smoking cigarettes.
like a lot of things are mind altering. And then
Right.
I would argue, but I don't know, it's not that mind altering. Like I can still drive if I'm like eating
Right.
cake, you know what
Right.
I mean? But I
Yeah.
can't drive if I'm high.
Right.
I could
Well,
still drive if I've had a cup of coffee, probably
hmm
better, arguably
hmm
better.
but
I
if
could
you've
still
had
drive if I
17
smoke.
cups of coffee,
Well, yeah, I mean,
then
but I've
coffee
never,
becomes a problem.
and it does become a problem for some people.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, which you may not know the answer to this, but there's 12-step programs for everything. So if I'm going to Cocaine Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, are they not allowed to drink? Or are they just specifically there because they have a specific drug that they're trying to get off of?
I believe if you're in Cocaine Anonymous, you probably are not supposed to drink.
Okay.
But I don't know. I've never been. Are you saying you
Yeah.
have a problem with cocaine?
Well, I
I
don't
mean,
know if this is the place to talk about it, but
I
yeah, a
do
little bit.
cocaine. I do it, but that's like the way sometimes have a gummy. I'll sometimes do a
Sure.
key bump, but
Sure.
it doesn't, I,
Sure. It doesn't, you're not addicted to
no,
it.
I never had a problem with it.
But see, it's interesting that you say that
I'm totally joking,
because,
everybody. I do not do cocaine.
to my knowledge, um, no, because when I say like, yeah, I'll take a gummy every few months, if I were to say to you, like, I went out last night, I didn't drink, but like I did a couple of lines of coke, then you'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? like, like that's crossing a line, right? But like, what's the difference? But I would never do
No,
that.
I know, but also this is the thing. I remember having conversations with my AA friends early on where we'd be like, we were so into it at the beginning. And I'm not saying
Hmm.
I'm not into it. It's just that,
Yeah,
well, I'm not as definitely not as into it. And
right,
I think the reason I'm exploring this is not because I want to do anything. It's because I don't know if I need it to be so dogmatic at this
right.
point, and I don't want to have those attitudes about other people. And one of the attitudes that I had, and so did all my friends, was
Hmm.
like, if one of us went out, would we even be able to be friends anymore with the
Oh,
person, you know?
that's really
And
interesting.
not from a moral standpoint, but just from a we're in this together, we're on this
Yeah.
path, we're doing this thing. And if one of us was no longer doing the thing,
Hmm.
would we not have the same be able to have the same relationship? And I do
Yeah.
remember saying to my friend, like, okay, yeah, what if I started drinking again? And she was like, I
Hmm.
just don't think I'd be able to like stay friends with you. I wouldn't be mad at you, but
Right.
I don't know if we could hang out.
Yeah, because you have this commonality. Because I think if you became friends with somebody who did drink alcohol, that wouldn't be a deal breaker for you, right? Like it's different because you guys met each other and came together because you were working on your sobriety. But you're not going to penalize new people if they drink.
Also, I'm just saying at this point in my life, if somebody that I knew who'd been sober that I'd known for a long time started
Mhm.
drinking again, I don't think I'd be like, oh, I can't be friends with you. I mean, if you
Right.
started drinking again, I wouldn't be like, I'm so sorry, Tamara, but I'm on this very serious path and I can't like,
Right.
but also we didn't meet in that way either.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, but there have been times when I've said to you, um, I can't even remember what, like I was cooking with wine or like, oh, I know what it was. I was making limoncello for my friend's birthday party and I was dealing with a lot of vodka. And I was telling you how weird it was to be like making this like vodka liqueur and to not drink. And you said, do you feel like you want to drink? And for me, that wasn't judgmental. It was helpful. Like you were like throwing out a lifeline and being like, well, if this is something we need to talk about, I'm here for you. Let's talk about it. Like it never felt like a judgment. But if, yeah, I wonder. I feel like in our friendship, if all of a sudden I was like, you know what, I'm going to drink, I would probably avoid you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I would just feel bad about myself. So it's like when you're a person that drinks and drinks too much, you tend to kind of surround yourself with people who do the same thing. And you start to recognize those people. Um, like it's weird. It's almost like a secret language, but you can like find those people and recognize them and then like bring them in. Um,
Hold on one
so
second.
okay.
Uh, I'm getting like some static
Hmm.
all of a sudden. Let me see if it was like, did you move?
No.
Okay,
And I'm not hearing, is it better? I have
now
my
I'm not.
AirPods in, but I'm not hearing any static in them.
Oh, okay, now I'm not. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm gonna keep going. Okay, yeah, you were saying that you
I
would.
would probably isolate and not reach out to you as much, but it wouldn't be because I felt like you were going to judge me. It would be because I would be feeling bad about myself and I would be judging myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's another interesting thing, which is that when you're involved in something that's very all or nothing and a bit perfectionist, when
Hmm.
people go out, and I was talking to another sober person about this, this friend of mine who said, if I went out, the last thing I would do is tell somebody about it, even though they could help me, because I probably
Right.
wouldn't want help. Right. That like
Well,
I don't,
yeah.
if I'm drinking, then I don't want to be sober right now. And I don't need my AA friends to be like, oh my gosh, let me take you to a meeting. Let me help you. Like,
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I want to drink.
Right. Yeah. And then I imagine the mindset is like, well, I'm going to do this for a while. And then when I need help, I'll reach out. But while I'm doing this thing and I'm in the middle of it, then I'm just going to do it.
I'm
And
trying to, yeah,
probably,
go ahead.
well, and probably I imagine when people do that, it's a pretty isolating thing because also maybe you don't want the people in your life that still drink to know that you're doing it again. You know, like
Interesting. Cause they're going to judge you like, oh, see, yeah, welcome back.
kind of,
Sobriety doesn't
kind
work, does it?
yeah. And and you've been like so proud of yourself for a long time because you've done this thing and perhaps were like perceived as being sanctimonious, which I hope that I haven't been. Um, but yeah, I think it would be a very isolating experience on both sides of the spectrum.
It's such an interesting topic to me because I really am trying to examine my own attitudes about it because like I said, when I read in sober groups when people are arguing about the semantics of like I can still call myself sober even though I smoke pot,
Hmm.
I don't know why I have thoughts or feelings about it. Like it's literally none of my business and
Yeah,
people should do what works for them and I
right.
should know well enough that I know it wouldn't work for me. I know it wouldn't. I know I can't do a little bit of anything. So
Hmm.
I had to be very black and white at the beginning.
Right.
And I still am black and white with certain substances. But,
Hmm.
I used to be way more black and white about sugar. I was like, I have to
Uh-huh.
either be completely abstinent or I'm just going to eat all the sugar. And I
Right.
had to try to learn. I mean, some people in program, okay, I'm just going to say this, whatever, 22 minutes into our show, I'm just going to say this thing that might sit wrong with people.
Okay.
I do think that when you're in a program, you do get very black and white in your thinking to the point that you're like, I'm going to fix everything. Like, I'm not
Hmm.
going to
Hmm.
do alcohol, but I'm also going to, I think that my problem is food. So I'm going to be like super strict with my eating. And I'm going
Right.
to be like, no gluten, like, well, in like some of the eating 12-step groups, it's no sugar, no bread, like any addictive types of substances, they do there's a certain food plan. I don't want
Okay.
to misspeak, but a lot of people it has an acronym, but a lot of people do it and
Hmm.
they swear by it. They go, I've
Huh.
found freedom in no longer having these foods because now I don't overeat. And
Right.
I think that's great for them if it works, but I do
Hmm.
think for me I can't have too many of those things or like it makes my brain go crazy. Like I can't.
Yeah. And no, you have to have some pleasure in your life. But
Right.
I think there's a thing that happens too. So, you conquer this thing. You stop drinking. And then there's this feeling of like kind of a high, and they call it the pink cloud, where everything feels so amazing and so wonderful, and eventually that goes away. So maybe when you start trying to control these other things in your life, you're just chasing that euphoria. Because I remember,
Ah, that's such a good point.
like, I think it was like around the first of the year, and that's like my anniversary of stopping drinking, and you were quitting sugar. And I went, you want me to do it too? And you were like, yeah. So we did that thing together. But I know that for me, and I'll do this too,
We
I'll be
both
like,
got 30 days.
is that true? Was it 30? Um, or I'll be like, you know what? I'm just gonna be vegan now. And it's just there's something that it's it's fulfilling. It makes you feel good about yourself. And it's almost sort of ascetic, but it's yeah, like I do think it's a little bit of like chasing that euphoria, which is addictive in itself.
Yeah, I think you have a good point. And I do think it's true that we've changed a lot. And, there's somebody in one of my 12 step group who very much feels strongly that you can't take antidepressants. And I
Well,
think
come
that's
on.
such bullshit. Well, I
That's
agree.
bullshit.
And I think
And
that's
it's dangerous. That is dangerous thinking. And I hope that she is not a sponsor to someone who needs those drugs to live.
right. And I think she has been. And I think that you get into this area where you're like, okay, so I'm in this program and now I'm going to decide what it says. It says it nowhere in the big book does it say you can't take antidepressants.
Right.
I don't, were they invented in the 30s? Maybe not.
They may have been like the older school ones, but like, SSRIs are fairly, I think, recent, maybe like since the 80s.
Yeah.
But those those are they're not mind altering. Like they don't make you feel like a Xanax or an Ativan would.
Oh,
They
hell
just
no, they don't. Or I'd be
right? Yeah, it's a very different experience. And again, it's very dangerous speaking. And I've heard other people say that. I've heard people say, "Well, I quit drinking alcohol and now I don't take antidepressants anymore." And that's great. And I can see how those two things are linked, that alcohol is a depressive, and so you're taking an SSRI to medicate that depression, and then you don't need it anymore when you stop drinking. And that's amazing. But some people need it. Some people just need it.
some people were using alcohol to medicate the depression
Yes,
and not using antidepressants to medicate the alcohol abuse.
100%.
When I quit drinking, I had been on Xanax, not on Xanax. I had also been on Xanax. I'd been on Zoloft for a few years because
Hmm.
I quit drinking when I started taking Zoloft when Elby, my oldest, was like, I want to say 6 months old or maybe a year and a half. Then I quit drinking when she was 4.5. And
Hmm.
then after a while, after like a year, I was like, I want to try to stop taking Zoloft
Hmm.
slowly just to see, because I took that for postpartum anxiety and depression.
Right.
But now we were pretty far away from her birth and the
Right.
birth of the twins. They were like 18 months old. I waited another whole year. It's not like I was like, I'm going to be clean of everything. I knew that that wasn't the Zoloft wasn't the problem, but I
Yes.
wanted to see. Anyway, long story short, I titrated off
Hmm.
super duper slowly, like over another year. So let's
Right.
say 2 years into my sobriety, I was no longer taking Zoloft
Uh
and I
huh.
had no problems. I didn't have depression
Great.
anymore. But I have so many friends with mental health issues that
Hmm.
have to take antidepressants and had depression, struggled with that preceding alcohol getting out of control.
Right.
And I agree with you that it's a very dangerous attitude. I guess what I'm wanting to really talk about is this whole all or nothing. You can't belong in this group if you do this thing that makes people maybe even do more of that thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's say that you are doing sobriety with AA
Mm-hmm.
and you were told very clearly like you do not take gummies. Well,
Right.
then if you took a gummy and you were like, "Well, shit, now I'm not sober anymore according to my group." Then
Mm-hmm.
you might be tempted to be like, well, then fuck it. I'm going to like take another one. I'm going to take one in the middle
Right.
of the day. I'm going to take, but because you don't have that thing where you're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not proving anything to anybody but myself
Uh-huh.
and I'm fine having a gummy, you don't have anything to feel super guilty and like, oh my God, now I have to admit it to people, right?
Right. Right. And I honestly, I'll say this again. AA and other 12-step programs save lives. They save lives every single day. And I am a big fan of doing whatever you can do to get yourself healthy and stay alive. I think for some people, going in short term when you're first trying to get off of a substance is super, super helpful. And then maybe they don't need it anymore. Um, I have a friend who will probably listen to this, and she got sober with AA and really, really needed that community, but now got to a point where she was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And her sobriety is not in jeopardy. It's just she's ready to move on and try a different thing. And so I don't think there's one set way to get sober. Um, and for me, I don't feel like I really need to be accountable to anybody but myself. And I don't think my accountability is any less than it would be if I had to report to someone.
Right. I I guess then my brain though gets caught with this. Obviously, if I wanted the answers, I would have like a doctor on. Although I think there's a lot of schools of thought with doctors as well. And also, I
Yeah.
don't want to take away from your medical degree that you were short of by like a week.
I literally two
Oh,
units. Someday.
you can still
Someday.
practice. Who's gonna check? It's ridiculous. It's
No
like
one's ever asked for
it's
my
up
diploma.
it's up to you. Like, oh, if I didn't get all my credits for med school, does that mean I can't be a doctor? Like on some Facebook groups would say, no, you can't be a doctor.
Maybe. Listen, I have scrubs. I have a stethoscope. Who's going to question?
Exactly. Um, oh my God, now I lost my train of thought.
Okay,
Oh,
we were.
I know what I was gonna say. I I hear what you're saying because I would also not want to dissuade somebody. The whole idea of just being accountable to yourself, the problem for people that are trying to really quit drinking is that's very difficult. Like if we could be accountable to ourselves and we could quit drinking on our own, most of
Mhm.
us would have done it that way. You know,
Right.
you were very lucky that you were able to have like a low moment and
Hmm.
go, I'm really done
Right.
and figure out a way to do it. I think for the majority of people that are like, I'm really struggling. I got a
Hmm.
DUI. I seem to make a promise to myself every morning. I'm not going to drink. And then by like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, fuck, I'm going to have one
Yeah.
glass of wine.
Right.
The mental gymnastics that we do that this show is for, it's for
Hmm.
talking about that moment that you just go like, "What? I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired. I'm so
Yeah.
done, and I don't know
Yeah.
what to do." Like that crossroads is so real where you're like,
Hmm.
"I've tried I've tried moderating. I've tried all the things short of turning myself into AA and going, I'm an alcoholic. You know,
Hmm.
nobody wants to do that. That's the thing.
Right.
So it requires a certain level of desperation, which we
Hmm.
say in AA, I wish you desperation, because
Yes.
to go in there and go, I'm just going to do this, say these corny sayings and like ask somebody for help. Most of us that quit drinking hate asking for help. We hate it. We
Yes.
don't like
Yeah.
admitting defeat. We don't like telling people like I don't know what to do. I cannot stop drinking. And
Hmm.
the accountability that you get when you go into like AA and the help. And
Hmm.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying it's judgmental because it's not. It's we judge
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
If you start drinking again in AA, do not think for 1 minute you can't walk back in the next day and go,
Yeah.
I fucked up. And everybody will love you and go,
Hmm.
welcome back. We're here to help. Like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying that the program is super judgmental. And that's why
Right.
I say, like, there is no real rule book. It's just we feel that if you're doing something to alter your mind, that that could be a problem for people that have like very addictive brains. So
Right.
if you're now, but I guess what I'm saying is a lot of people do AA and probably do take gummies sometimes. And they just go,
Right.
that's my business. I'm not going to like advertise it. I don't have a problem with it. Right.
Right. And you know what? That's probably fine. My feeling too is that the reason a group like AA says, you know, you can't do these other things is because if somebody comes in and talks about that, it's probably super triggering for the other people.
Yeah.
So I think that if somebody like smokes weed every once in a while, but is still like working a program and doing all the stuff they're supposed to do, I was gonna say I don't have a problem with it. I have no skin in this
We're
game.
cool. Yeah, it's so funny. And even just you saying like and doing the work, it's like that's triggering to me in a way because that was the thing that I was like, I don't want there to be homework.
Yeah.
There isn't actually a thing that you have to do. For anybody
Hmm.
that's thinking, debating, like maybe I should go to AA,
Hmm.
I'm making it sound way worse than it is. There isn't there's not a thing. Like there's not like
Right.
you need to do this amount of work every day. There's a lot of suggestions and you can
Okay.
take the suggestions or you can be like, yeah, that's not going to be for me. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, that's interesting because my assumption has always been if you're in AA, then you have to get a sponsor and you have to work the steps and you have to do all this stuff. And yeah, honestly, I was like, I don't want to do it. I have no
You don't have
interest
to
in
do
that.
any of that. Like you can literally go find a meeting near you, go to it and sit in the back of the
Hmm.
room and listen and hear beautiful stories and hear people that you relate to and feel a lot less alone. And when
Hmm.
I stopped drinking, I needed that level of I was a person who could not stop drinking. I was drinking every single day. I
Hmm.
was if I got sick, I was like, "Yay, I can take NyQuil and have wine." You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
and have a reason for it. I
Right.
loved nothing more than to be semi out of it. That was my
Hmm.
favorite thing. My sister-in-law had called me on it and said, "You just are really checking out every single night." And I hit a point, which I've discussed many times, where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need help. And the
Hmm.
help was a group of people that were like, you can talk to me anytime. A bunch of
Yeah.
people that had the same problem I did saying, yeah, it's freaking hard, but like,
Hmm.
here's my phone number. You can call me day or night. Like, all of a sudden, I felt this safety and I didn't do a bunch of work right away. I didn't get a sponsor immediately. I was like,
Hmm.
but I did call people. People gave me their
Yeah.
numbers. I called them. And
Yeah.
I went to meetings and I felt better after I went to a meeting. So I guess it's twofold. It's like it does help people and for reasons that you might not you personally, but one
Hmm.
might not think.
Hmm.
It's the being surrounded by everybody who's on the same path you are and who's trying to do the same thing. And
Right.
nobody's perfect. But then I guess what I'm saying kind of doesn't work for some people is after a while, you're like, oh, now I'm in this really perfectionist mindset where I'm like, I can't do anything. And I think some people do go like, well, fuck it. I want to take gummies or I want to smoke pot. So now I can't be
Hmm.
here anymore. And then they leave.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. And I think I've said this to you before. Like, the thing that I was sort of missing when I quit drinking was that sense of community that I think you find in an AA room. And I do not undervalue that. I think it's really important. I didn't have it. Um, what I did do, and I think we've talked about her before, is Annie Grace and her 30-day alcohol experiment. And that for me is what changed everything for me because she says try it for 30 days and decide if you like it or not. And for me, I always tell myself, like, I can do anything in this example. I can do anything for 30 days. Um, and so I did it, but I worked hard at it. I didn't just stop drinking, I worked at it. So this was every day you had to do something. You had to read, and you had to learn things about what happens to your brain, what happens to your body when you drink, and how terrible alcohol is for you. And that really flipped a switch in my brain. Um, and I did that work. And then at the end of 30 days, it was like, all right, well, I'm going to keep this going. But it still wasn't. It took me a while to finally say, that's it. This is this is going to be how I live my life now. And and then I think when you see that things get better and better, um, there becomes a lot of value in this idea of not drinking. So I'm at the point now where I don't feel like I need that community anymore, because I don't feel like I'm in danger of drinking, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And, that leads me to one thing that I wanted to touch on before we go, which is lately in the past while, you have gone through some real hard stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if, I'm glad you're at the place you are in your sobriety, but what happens when you don't have a community like that and you have some things that might trigger the need to really check the fuck out? What do you do?
Yeah, that part is difficult. And I think I can share this. You know this. We lost my baby niece at 5 weeks old, and our family was completely shattered. Um, and it's interesting because in the past, I've always said, like, if something happened to my son, all bets are off, and I'm drinking. And then when this very unexpected tragedy happened to our family, um, there was probably a moment or two of going, God, I really wish I could check out right now. But it's like they say, and I think they do say this in 12-step programs, you play it through and you just think, I'll do it, and then I'll feel like shit, and then I won't be present the next day. And I have to tell you that during this time when, my sister was pregnant and expecting, and there were some issues, or when things would, you know, be difficult with my niece in the hospital, and my sister would call me in the middle of the night, I was so fucking grateful that I wasn't drunk, and that I could get up and get in my car and drive to be where she needed me to be, and stay with my 4-year-old nephew. And so it's things like that that I remind myself of, is the importance of being present and not altered in that way.
That is so beautiful. That is really beautiful. If there's any reason to stay sober, that is such a good reason. And I've used the play it through many times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's incredibly effective. Um, and I'm truly at the point now where if I smell alcohol, it's so gross to me. But there's still that thing in your brain that's like, well, maybe I could get past that. And thankfully, thankfully, so far so good.
I think mine is the that just like taking a gummy, like just having an altered brain sounds
Hmm.
really fun. But
Yeah.
I think to myself, at this point, okay, actually, here's a good example. I had to have dental work whenever that was, a year ago? No, 2 years ago? Whatever.
Hmm.
Not last July, but the July before. I had to
Okay.
have a root canal. And I
Hmm.
was so scared because I'd had one before and I'd um, just had an anxiety attack in the middle of it. And then
Uh-huh.
the endodontist was mean to me about it, which made it even worse. So when I knew I had to
Hmm.
have another one, I was completely freaked out. And this different endodontist was like, well, then just do gas. And I had this moment of like, oh my God, am I allowed to do nitrous
Yeah.
oxide? I remember reading James Fry's book,
That's
A
crazy.
Million
Oh
Little
God, it's
Pieces,
the worst. I'm so glad it's not true.
right? And I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, he went through like all that dental work without anything because he was sober. And then I really did have a little like come to Jesus with myself. And I was like, will you stop being ridiculous? Like, that's where
Yeah.
your perfectionism is going to really, like, there's no reason for that.
Hmm.
You don't need to punish yourself so much that you're not allowed to make sure you have a calm experience
Yeah.
getting a
Yeah.
anyway. And by the way, spoiler alert, I'm so glad I did I did it. I had the nitrous oxide.
Yeah.
I had my root canal. While I was fucked up on nitrous oxide, I was like, this isn't like a great feeling. I'm not like,
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
my mind, I was like, this is not something that this is helping me. And I'm glad because I'm disconnected from what's happening in my mouth. But I
Uh-huh.
remember having the conscious thought of like, this is not something that I'd be like, oh my God, let me try to buy some the nitrous oxide. How am
Some
I going to get
whippets.
more of this? Like, and once it's off of you, you're sober
The
again.
second they take it away, you're
Right.
completely lucid.
And I was never the only thing I felt was a little bit guilty. Like, would people in my program be judging me? And
Oh my God.
I told my friend
Hmm.
who's my sober sister, and she was like, that's ridiculous. And then I was like, yeah, I am being ridiculous with myself.
Uh-huh.
That's that mindset that you get into
Yeah.
where I was like, is that serving me? Is it serving me to have that mindset of like, you know, but the thing is about just being high, just my point was going to be, I think it through to like, do I even really like the feeling of being
Yeah.
stoned? I never did. I never
Right.
liked that feeling. I like being buzzed, and I could never get myself just properly buzzed and stay that way. So that ship has sailed. I'll never be able to drink normally again.
Uh-huh.
And I don't like the feeling of being stoned. So why would I do it?
Yeah, you're fine. You don't need to dabble. Like, you're good.
No, I know I don't. I'm just saying that's the thing in your brain that I go, let me just think it through when I go,
Right.
wouldn't it be maybe I'm feeling really stressed this week. Maybe I should like be able to take a gummy. I just go like, who are you kidding?
Yeah, it's also like, why tempt fate? Like, you've gotten this
Right.
far, everything's good, you're solid. There's
Yes.
there's no reason to tempt fate.
Yeah, and I have a lot of gratitude for my sobriety, but it's nice to be able to have conversations like this, and I think it's nice for people that might think this is just a program
Hmm.
podcast. No, this is not like all AA stories.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of ways to get sober, and there's a lot of ways to be sober. And I'm so glad you found the Annie Grace thing. So you read the book, and then
I
was
read
is
the
it
book.
this
I
is a
did.
podcast or there's a
Yeah, I listen.
program?
There's like a, I want to say it's a website. I honestly don't remember. The book is called This Naked Mind, but there's a thing she does called the 30-day alcohol experiment, which is maybe it's a website and you just, or maybe you get daily things. I don't remember. But anyway, it's basically prescribes something for you to do every single day for 30 days. And it worked for me. Um, and I want to say that too. If I've talked to a lot of people about this, about getting sober without AA. So if anybody who's listening to this show wants to talk about that with someone, find me on Instagram. It's at Tamara Mello. I'm so happy to talk to anybody about this journey because it has been a different journey for me than it's been for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's great. That's your takeaway, everybody. And I'm always open to S Wilder Taylor is my Instagram handle. If you want to talk about like just should I try AA? Like, I mean, I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
I still am a fan of it this many years later. I just think like you don't have to have a certain mindset. Like there's a lot of ways. So, yeah, get a hold of either of us. What if we
Yeah. And
started
also,
competing?
I
Hit me
got four
first.
people reaching out today. No, but also if you guys haven't read Stephanie's book, and whatever. Um,
Drunkish, the book.
yeah, I was gonna say like I'm not trying to like pitch this to people, but I am. It's a great book. So if you haven't read it, it was something that helped me on my journey of stopping drinking, and it's how Stephanie and I met. So Drunkish is a great book. You should read it.
Yeah, and I hoped in that book, I mean, I really wanted to talk about what helped me, and there's a lot of meetings about talking about meetings, but I was also trying to write it from the perspective of if people are like, oh, they're super religious,
Mm-hmm.
I basically consider myself atheist.
Mm-hmm.
17 years into this thing, I'm not like converted to Christianity. I have my own way of viewing the world and it works
Mm-hmm.
for me. And there's a lot you can get, especially just the getting sober part that you can
Mm-hmm.
get from AA. But as you've said, to sum up, we've come a long way with sobriety and there's a lot of other alternates too. And
So many.
but being sober seems to be better for us
Yeah.
in general.
For us, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody has their own thing. Everybody has their own path.
Anyway, thanks for being here and having such an honest conversation. And now we're going to hang up and you and I are going to go have lunch.
Yay!
Bye,
Bye,
everybody. See
everybody.
you next week.
Like life is good.